get started. So good morning and welcome to the Western New York Women's Foundation's 2021 Pathways to Progress speaker series. Today, we're extremely pleased to welcome special guest Morgan Williams-Bryant for her session on the Champions Blueprint to Goal Setting. I am Corey Fabian Barrett. I'm the Director of External Affairs here at the Western New York Women's Foundation, and I'm joined on the webinar this morning by Morgan and Melanie Jaspolka, our Director of Development. And thank you all for joining us today. Before we get started, I just wanted to share a few quick words about the Western New York Women's Foundation for those of you who may not be familiar with our work. As an organization, we're committed to creating opportunities for women to earn, learn, and lead. We present these free webinars once a month to educate and inspire our community to advance gender equity and move Western New York forward. And one of the biggest ways that we create change in our community is through our advocacy work. This year's legislative session just wrapped up in Albany last week, and we are incredibly proud to see many of the pieces of legislation that we championed pass through the State Assembly and Senate. Legislation, for example, that will grant more parents access to safe, affordable, and quality childcare. Legislation that will make it easier for small business owners, especially women and women of color who've been really hard hit by the pandemic, to get support that they need to keep their doors open. These successes have been thanks to strong relationships that we have with our elected officials and also with partnerships across the state. So while a lot of our advocacy work does take place behind the scenes, you can get involved by signing up for our Women in Action e-newsletter. We'll send you a quick email once a month and with concrete action steps that you can take that will really make a difference. Every voice matters in the fight for gender equity. So I hope you will join us. You can sign up. It's really easy. Just go online. Just dropped the link in the chat. It's on our website at wnywomensfoundation.org. Regardless of whether you join us, Women in Action or not, thank you so much for logging on this morning for this webinar. We know that your time is precious and we really appreciate your support of our work. We'll continue creating these spaces for women to convene and learn in the coming months. So always, please be sure to follow us on social media. We have Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter, so you can get all the latest information on our work and our upcoming offerings. And now we have just a few quick housekeeping notes for today's webinar. We'll be online talking to you for about an hour today with time for questions at the end of the formal presentation. We are also recording this session if you'd like to watch part of it again later or share it with a colleague. So we'll be getting a link in an email after we wrap up today. In the control bar at the bottom of your screen, you'll see that we have both a chat and a Q&A option available for you this morning. As people who are fellow Zoom webinar veterans know, these two things are slightly different. If you have a question for Morgan that you would like asked at the end of the presentation, please hit Q&A to submit your questions. If, on the other hand, you have an experience that you'd like to share or you'd like to discuss a point that's been brought up with your fellow attendees, please type it in the chat box so that everyone can see it. Regardless, Melanie will be monitoring both of these spaces throughout the session, so don't worry too much if you get them mixed up or you put a question in the chat or a comment in the Q&A. Now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce Morgan Williams-Bryant, our speaker for today's session. Morgan is the founder and CEO of MWB Ignites, a global consultancy firm headquartered here in Buffalo, New York, that elevates individuals and organizations through leadership development training and workshops to help awaken untapped talents, gifts, and boundless potential. Currently, Morgan is the Chief Impact Officer for the Girl Scouts of Western New York, where she oversees all aspects of membership, volunteer training, and girl programming for 16,000 girls and 7,000 adults in 9 counties. Prior to joining the Girl Scouts, Morgan was appointed the youngest female deputy commissioner for the Erie County Youth Services Division and has also served as Director of Youth and Family Services for the Community Action Organization of Western New York. Morgan earned her BA in Broadcast Communication from the State University of New York College at Buffalo and her MA in Organizational Leadership from Medaille College. She is a Health Leadership Fellow with the Health Foundation of Western and Central New York and a graduate of Leadership Buffalo. Morgan currently serves on several boards and committees, including Leadership Buffalo, the Say Yes Buffalo Operations and Endowment Committees, Women Who Lead Western New York, our wonderful mentorship program through our All In initiative, and as a trustee of Medaille College. She's also received a host of honors and recognition, including 2019 Buffalo State College Young Alumnus Award, the Business First 40 Under 40 Award, and was a Buffalo Niagara Partnership Athena Award finalist. We are thrilled that you could be with us here this morning. Let's take it away.
Oh, good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much, Corey. Every time I hear that, I'm like, are they talking about me? So, thank you all for spending the first part of your Friday with me. I know we are ready. Some of us have a long weekend, and we are definitely ready to get to it. So, I appreciate the hour that you have carved out today. As Corey mentioned, I am the president and CEO of MWB Ignites, where we are focused on overall leadership development. And some of those things include conflict management training, the foundations of leadership versus management, strategic planning, and more. And then also empowerment coaching. Next slide. Our goal at MWB Ignites is to prepare individuals to achieve champion level results through empowering, activating, and tackling personal and professional development. Next slide. I love this quote: a goal without a timeline is just a dream. I'm often asked, Morgan, how are you able to do everything that you do and still enjoy life? Or you've accomplished so much already in your career. How did you do it? And it's really two answers that I give consistently. Number one, my faith is my foundation and driver at all times. Number two, I believe in the power of setting goals. And I've always gotten results from this strategy and learned it very early starting in my career. So I want to tell you this story. When I graduated from Buffalo State College in May, I was coasting all summer long. I had continued working my part-time job at Home Depot, at the customer service desk, greeting people, doing special orders. I mean, I was living a life. And when August hit, I had an epiphany because I had lived on campus all 4 years, and tell you, I had the time of my life at Buffalo State College. I hold it dear to my heart. And I said, wait a minute, Morgan, you're not moving back on campus this time. This phase of your life is done. So there was a little bit of a sullen moment like, oh my goodness, I now have entered life after college mode. So insert a few butterflies floating in my stomach, like, okay, now I got to make this degree work. So I had made up in my mind that next day, I'm like, okay, I can't keep working this part-time job at Home Depot because I really need to put this degree to use immediately. Even though I love the job and greeting people and learning about sod and pipes and all kinds of things that I had no interest in before. So I had wrote down some goals. I needed to be working a full-time job in my field by a certain date. And I say a certain date because so many years ago now, I don't remember which date I had given myself. So I had graduated from Buff State with a bachelor's in broadcast communications, and I had been applying for a few jobs between May and August. I hadn't received much response. I would call and follow up. Hi, I've submitted my resume. Just wondering if you have any updates on the position. And, they give you the cans. Oh, we're still looking or accepting applications. So I had constructed a new plan because it was August. And I'm like, normally I'm moving back on campus, welcoming the freshmen in, a new family, and telling them about my wonderful college that I've had a great experience. And I'm like, this is not going to work. And Morgan, you need to be doing something by the time end of August, September comes. So I updated my resume again. And at the time, I had created a generic cover letter, purchased some more additional resume paper. Yes, we don't do that much now because everything is electronic. And then I pulled out my black suit, white shirt, some cute earrings, and a necklace, and the phone book. Yes, I did say the phone book. I printed out a few MapQuested routes because at that time we weren't as technologically advanced as we are now. And I started my journey. I spent a day driving around to every television station and radio station that I can get to that day. And sometimes I waited in the lobby and they said, oh, certain people were on lunch. We'll drop your resume off on their desk. And I said, no, I'll sit here and wait. I've called him a few times. He hadn't got back to me. I have nothing but time today. So I waited in the lobby until a few of those people walked through the door and gave them my resume again so that they can put face to resume. And it's like, I'm looking to set up an interview anytime. I was determined to at least win me an interview that turned into a position that day. So I may have not been hired that day, but at least I can score an interview at one of these places that I visited. One of the last stations that I had drove to, which was towards the end of the day, was Tri-State Christian Television Station, otherwise known as TCT, in Orchard Park. A little bit away, maybe about 5 or 10 minutes away from the Buffalo Bills Stadium. Never heard of this. I saw it in the phone book, printed out MapQuest, and drove. I walked in there with my resume in hand, with my pitch ready to go. And by the end of that evening, the station manager had called me back to set up an interview. And within a few weeks, I was their new prayer partner coordinator and production assistant for Tri State Christian Television Station in Western New York. My strategy had worked. I landed my first entry level position. And so that strategy I have carried with me ever since that day that I started my journey. So whether it's in my current business with MWB Ignites, my role at Girl Scouts of Western New York, or my personal life, this strategy of the power of setting goals works for personal and professional goals. What I have noticed is that we are really good at meeting other people's goals. And many times when it comes to ourselves, we kind of put that on the back burner. And why are we good at meeting other people's goals? Because they give us their results. That's very clear. I need you to do X by this date. They give us the benchmarks that need to be met and the key milestone dates. And it automatically causes us to focus. And so we're off to the races, meeting goals, whether it's our company goals, our board, our community commitments, because that's what drives us, being able to focus, write things down clearly and focus. So at MWB Ignites, I implement the EAT methodology in every training or empowerment session that I conduct to help focus individuals and teams and develop very clear plans. Next slide. So the EAT stands for Empower, Activate, Tackle. Empower, and that, giving you just a summary here, is about building your confidence, sharing that vision, strengthening your vision, and bringing out that inner champion that we all have inside of us. It's really about bringing that grand vision forward and discovering that inner champion. Activate is the step where we design your success roadmap. How are you going to get to that empower, activate, that empower stage? And then tackle is about supporting you while you're launched. You have the confidence, we've given you the tools and a roadmap, and now it's time for you to launch and walk forward confidently. Next slide. So a lot of times we talk about things, goal setting. We're going to set goals. We're going to have a strategic planning session. We need to put a succession plan in place. But what is the actual definition of those things? And goal setting is the process of identifying something that you want to accomplish and then establishing measurable goals and time frames so that you can meet it. It's your motivation and turns into your guide to success. Next slide. And of course, there's always things that prevent us from achieving or sticking to our goals. So where does that demotivation start to happen? Causing procrastination to rise, which prevents us from meeting goals. And it's things like when we don't have a clear plan, and then we aren't really sure where to focus first. And with that, we have too many balls in the air. Yes, I'll do that. Yes, I'll serve on your committee. Yes, I can take on that project. Yes, I'll look over that resume for you. Yes, I'll come support you at your dinner banquet. And then sometimes it's just a general lack of confidence. I'm really not sure how this is going to turn out. I'm not sure if I'll do it well. And then lastly, we start to feel overwhelmed. Oh my goodness. Now I have all these balls in the air. I'm really not sure which way it's going to go. Forget it. I'm not doing anything. But then we can minimize some of those feelings or combat them completely through the power of setting goals. Next slide. When you sit down to create them, it really should be it really should focus you and kind of help you recalibrate any of the behaviors that served as distractions prior. It really gives you direction. It helps you achieve better results, improve your confidence. It shows you that the impossible is actually possible. Sometimes things seem way too big, but when you start breaking it down in steps, it's like, oh, I can take step one. And after you take step one, the complicated, this is actually kind of simple. And then it also keeps you accountable to what you said you're going to do. So this brings me to the EAT methodology for the Champions Blueprint for setting goals. And I know Melanie is going to put the link where you can download the free ebook that I created to help you break things down. And that's what I'll be going through. I created the Champions Blueprint to Setting Goals free ebook to help you break things down into manageable steps so that everyone who wants to can achieve champion level results. And remember, I said in the beginning, we all have an inner champion in us. Empower is about writing your goals down, making them real. It helps you realize and formulate a plan and bring it to life. I like to put things in writing for the year, me personally. So end of December, I write my goals down and then I put a vision board together. And then it kind of helps me, where am I going to focus first? What is the most important thing? And then I kind of section them off into quarterly goals. What am I going to accomplish this winter, late winter, spring, summer? And by the time we come around to December, where should I really be in my goal process? And then activate, creating a list of high level tasks that will help you see what you really need to focus on monthly. You decide what's the vital thing for you to accomplish. I'm sorry, next slide. It helps you decide what you need to focus on and what's most vital first. And it outlines your specific action steps to reach your goals. And then tackle is about execution. We talked about that. Now you have your plan, you have your confidence. It's time for you to execute and launch. Execution is a lot easier when you have a plan. So you use your daily action steps as a roadmap to directly bring you closer to achieving and setting your goals. You assign dates to each of those action steps and set weekly 1 hour meetings with yourself. Sometimes I have to block it off. Monday nights, I have on my calendar, increase your intelligence. So I know I need to set at least an hour aside so I can read a book, because I had set a goal that I wanted to read a certain amount of books this year, but I wasn't doing that. So when it pops up on my calendar, I'm like, Morgan, you're not doing anything but watching TV right now. You've seen this Law and Order Special Victims Unit show a couple of times. Cut it off and just at least read a chapter and you can come back to it. So setting those weekly hour meetings with yourself is just as important as when you're working with your boss and you have your one-on-one sessions, or any of your team members and you have your one-on-one sessions. Yourself is just as important. Next slide. So I want to go through the actual champion goal plan. So if you see at the top, it says goal detail. You write your goal in there. Here's a sample where I says you're going to enroll in school for the fall semester. Start date, March 2021. So we're starting in March because we want to enroll by the fall semester, and the deadline is going to be July. Your motivation. What is your motivation behind completing your goal? For this person, they want to complete their degree because they're trying to advance in their career. Figure out what I need to register for the next semester is the next step. Is how would you achieve your goals? So in order to pick a school, what do you need to register? What paperwork? Do you need recommendation letters? Do you need old transcripts if you've been to school already? And then you start to break those down into action steps with the actual date to it. So you got to research 3 schools with your program. When I was going to grad school, I thought that's just the next step. I got to go to grad school. I finished undergrad, I got to go to grad school. And so I was just picking programs and schools. And my mother said, Morgan, it's okay. You can slow down for at least a year. So I ended up taking the year off while I worked at the Christian television station. And it gave me a chance to really put my strategy into place. Write down what it is that I wanted to achieve next. Where did I want to go in my career? Which degree was going to help me get there and give me that experience so that I can leverage it in interviews and as I'm applying for more entry-level positions. When did the program start? What schools that I need? What schools had that degree program? Which is why I ended up at Medaille College, which I now serve on the board for. They had organizational leadership because I knew I wanted to work with people. I wanted to coach women, or I wanted to work with children. And I wanted to be prepared to help them be able to propel through their career as well. And putting dates by those action steps is important because when you're doing your weekly meetings with yourself, okay, by March 1st, I said I was going to at least research 3 schools. And if it's March 2nd and you haven't, you got to go back to that and kind of reset and recalibrate. If you've missed it, it's okay. Be kind to yourself. set a new date and get back to it, but just make sure that you have action steps with goals that are attached to it or dates that are attached to it. And then, kind of, as you're doing those weekly meetings and you've completed everything, what was easy about it? And then what was hard? What was easy, let you know the complicated can be made simple when you have a plan to follow. And what was hard? Okay, the next time I need to go through an exercise like this, now I know these things were hard and I can incorporate that for the next goal I set. And any additional notes that you have at the bottom, notes that you can put at the bottom. Next slide. And I always like to say short-term milestones are celebration points. If it's important to you, it's important to celebrate. Celebrating offers reflection. It helps you enjoy the journey. It's like, oh my goodness, I got the 3 schools down. I've been waiting to go back to school for 5 years, and I finally researched those 3 schools. Go me. I might take myself out. I'm a ginger ale girl. So I'm gonna take myself out for a cold ginger ale, but when I'm really spicy, I'm gonna put a lemon and a lime in it too. It increases your gratitude. It's like, I'm grateful that I actually set this plan. Sometimes when we set plans, we feel like this is just another thing that I have to do. But as you're going through the journey of completing your goals, you see, I'm glad I actually did this. I have a couple of milestones that I've created, that I've reached, and I'm excited about it. And it also increases your confidence, because once you reach one step, you feel more confident that you can move on to the next step. And we talked about sometimes the reason why we get distracted with our goals and that we can't complete them is because we lose confidence, or we don't have the confidence built up. But when you celebrate yourself, it increases that. Next slide. This is a special message that I have, especially for us as women. One thing I had to get okay with is knowing that I don't have to be a superhuman. Therefore, I no longer try to be. What I do is focus my attention on what makes me happy, what fills my cup, what's important to me, and my quality of life. There are many lessons that we've all learned from this pandemic, but one that I've really leaned on is being more intentional. Now, already was on, I want to be more intentional about my relationships and what I focus on, but this pandemic really opened my eyes to that. And so I really assessed what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do going forward. Does it fill my cup? Does it align with my goals? Next slide. And that brings me to learning how to assess your yes. You do it by asking questions. Does this align with my goal? How long is this going to take? What is your expectation of my time commitment? How many meetings do you want me to attend? And then, is this request causing your anxiety to rise? And if it is, why? So you need to go through why. Is it because I really don't have the time, but I feel pressured to do it? Is it because I really am not passionate about this, but my good girlfriend is asking me, so I feel obligated to help her? So recently, I stood on a committee and someone asked me, Morgan, can you be a co-chair for this event? And immediately I said, can you send me the responsibilities? Because I'm thinking about my goals coming up and what I want to accomplish by the end of this summer and the things that I already have in the air. So I said, can you send me the job description for this and what the time commitment is? So she sent it over to me. And when I read it through, I looked, there was about 3 things in there that caused my anxiety to rise because I did not have time to do that. And in the current state we're in, I knew I couldn't fulfill the obligation. And so I emailed her back and I said, this is not something I can take on. I appreciate you for thinking that I can handle the task, but here's what I can do because I'm still passionate about the cause. I can attend 2 meetings to help you brainstorm. I can serve as a liaison for, one of the people that you want to get in contact with. And if you need any other ideas, I'm happy to email you a few or you can bounce them off of me. And so she came back and said, okay. She said, well, if I take these things off, will you do it? Because the bulk of the work falls on me anyway. And so I thought about it and said a prayer. And I said, okay, that's really in alignment with what you said you were going to do anyway. So I said, okay, I can do that. So I was able to say, okay, this deserves my yes, because she was able to meet me where I was, and I was still able to give to where my passion lies. If she would have said, "Oh, I still need you to do X, Y, and Z, but you only have to do it one time," I would have said, "No, I'm sorry, I can't, but maybe I can recommend some people to you," because it wasn't going to align with my goals that I've set for myself to accomplish by the end of the summer. It was going to be one more time consuming thing that would have taken me away from time from me planning my weekly meetings with myself or accomplishing some of the things that I wanted to, that I had on my plate. So, one thing that I do believe wholeheartedly, and this is a MWB Ignites mantra, we are all here for a purpose. As long as we have breath in our bodies, we have an assignment. The process of getting to and excelling in that assignment partly depends on you. It depends on us and how we choose to set ourselves up for success. One of my team members at Girl Scouts have two children, and one of her children is acting up. She'll say, "Are you setting yourself up for success with that attitude?" And I said, "I like that. I'm gonna adopt that." So one thing I say is, if you want a true breakthrough in some areas of your life, next slide, you're gonna have to break up with some of the habits that we've already established. And we know that that's not always easy. That's why establishing and writing goals are so important. The focus brings you closer to your goal, it gives you a clear path to travel. Next slide. And another special message I have in all this, I want you to pause often, appreciate where you are. You do not have to go from 1 to 100 today, tomorrow, next week, next month, or even next year. You just start with one step and say, "I commit to writing a goal plan for myself. I commit to believing that there's a champion already inside of me. I commit to at least writing one action step and accomplishing it by the end of the month." All you need is one step. As we move into question and answers, I want to leave you with this, that you are already champion made. We were all born with the capacity inside of us to win, to be successful, to excel, to come up with new ideas, to shift when we need to shift. It's really about activating and using the tools around you to be able to activate those things inside, pulling in mentors, having some accountability partners. There are some things that I know if I continue to just keep it to myself, I'm gonna procrastinate on it. But I have people around me to say, "Didn't you say?" Or, "Morgan, why haven't you done this yet? You know you should have." And I'm like, "I know, I know, I know, I know, I know." So there's some things that I have to tell my accountability partners, "Listen, this is a goal that I set for myself. But if you don't say something to me, I'm gonna talk myself out of it." And they'll say, "But aren't you the one that tell people they're champion made and we have the capacity to win?" So I want to remind you that we are all born to win. We are all champion made. And so I will open it up for Q&A. Next slide.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Morgan. Great. So this was a fabulous presentation. And again, just a reminder to everyone that the link to download Morgan's ebook is in the chat. So if you haven't done that already, make sure you do before the end of this. Has some great tips and advice and tools in there. So we've got a few questions. So Morgan, first, someone asked if you could elaborate a little bit about accountability partners that you just mentioned. Do you have any advice about how to find them, structures you recommend, and so on?
Right. Yes. So usually, two ways. I look for people who have done what I want to do. If they're already accomplished in an area, then one, I say, "Can I have a 30-minute call with you or a 15-minute call? I'm looking to do X, Y, and Z, and I see you've already accomplished it. I would like to know your success strategies to get there. What is it that you've done?" Others, I have a support group. I have a very tight sister circle. We are we're all goal oriented, driven, and that's inside and outside my sorority as well. And so we pray together every Thursday. And so we tell each other really what's going on. So we keep each other accountable there. The other thing, I have mentors from my past that I'll tap into that are retired. And I'll say, "I'm having a situation at work, a management situation. This is what I'm thinking I would like to do. Help me work through this." So it's really grabbing mentors that you've had from your past, looking at some of your friends that you know will hold you accountable. So if your goal is, I want to save money, I need to stop shopping for at least 30 days, you know, you don't pick the friend that you go shopping with to be your accountability partner. You pick the one that's a little bit more conscious about their money and say, you know what, Corey, I cannot shop for the next 30 days. I need you to stay on top of me. So when I send you an outfit, you say, I thought you weren't shopping for the next 30 days. So you want to make sure that your accountability partner is somebody that's truly going to hold you accountable. They're not afraid to say, you said, or no, you shouldn't do that. Let me remind you. Find somebody that has already done what you're trying to accomplish and reach out to them. Sometimes we admire people from afar, or you think maybe she doesn't want to share her tactics. Ask. People are more willing than you think to share how they got to where they are to help you be successful too.
Great, thank you. That's super helpful. Another question we got, sorry if you could, this is sort of a big picture question. Have you ever had an experience where you knew you wanted to move in a different direction, but it wasn't totally clear from the outset what your goal should be to move in that direction? And could you talk a little bit about any advice you have about how to clarify, how you know that the goal you're setting is the right goal to help you, move in that different direction?
Mm-hmm. The first part of the question was, have I ever had a goal that kind of didn't work out the way I wanted it to?
Yeah, or you were unclear about where you should go from there.
Yes. Actually, yes. When I was when I was really looking for grad schools, I'll go back to that story. And I thought the next step logically, education has always been something that's just been promoted in my family. So I'm like, I finished undergrad. Now I have a job in my career, like an entry level position. I must go to grad school right away, and I have to enroll in the fall. But I really wasn't sure what I wanted. I had an idea of what I wanted to major in. I really wasn't sure what schools. So I kind of was like a fish out of water for a minute because I was already, high school, college. I'd done things in college. I had gotten a job, but the grad school thing, I was kind of like, I'm not really sure about this. And that's when my mother stepped in and said, you can pause and think about it. And so that's what I'll say to you is pause. If you're unsure, pause, pull in some of your mentors. If you don't have some, pull in somebody that you've admired from afar and say, this is what I'm thinking. I want to do, and kind of also write down the pros and cons. I've done that as well. When I'm unsure and maybe I don't want to tell anybody yet because I just don't want it out there, let me write down the pros and the cons. What is my reason why? Why do I want to do this? Why do I want to accomplish this? Why do I want to move in this direction? Why am I scared? What do I feel? What am I unsure about? So I'm like writing those things down. A lot of times for me, which is why I promote doing it scared with fear, or flipping the script on fear, is when I come to the root of it, it's fear. Like you're nervous that maybe it won't work out, Morgan, or what will people say if it fails? And so that's usually the root for me. And if it's something else, then I kind of have somebody to help me walk through those steps. And then there was another time where when I was deputy commissioner for youth services, and the Girl Scout job opened up for people to apply, and someone had sent it to me, and I kind of felt like I don't know if I should apply because I've only been here like 15 months and I'm really a stable person. My previous job, I had been there like almost 7 years. I was like, I don't know if I should move on right now, so I was conflicted about it. But it was a great opportunity, and I knew it was what I wanted to do. But it was that time that I was afraid about. And I spoke to my father about it. He said, Morgan, sometimes you have to jump while the fire is hot. And I said, I'm jumping. And I've been there almost 8 years now. And what was the second part? I want to make sure I didn't miss that.
Sorry. Yeah, I think you answered it, but if there's anything else you want to chime in on, the second part was, do you have any advice to clarify how you know that the goal you set is the right one?
Oh, okay. Yes. Writing things down. So either I will talk it over with somebody if you don't want to share, because there are times when you just want to keep it to yourself until you're ready. Then write down that pros and cons list. Why are you scared? Why you want to do it? And your reason why should really align with your personal mission for life. I know I was born to ignite other people. And so does it fall within that for me? If it doesn't, then I let it go. If it does, then maybe if it's not interfering with anything else I've already set, then I'll move forward.
Great, thank you. There's some really good tips there. Okay, so next question. A lot of people don't think about the little steps along the way to accomplishing a big goal. What are your tips for breaking down a big goal into those small steps to get you there?
So I am still, we're electronic age, but I am still a pen and paper person. So literally when I talk about writing things down, what is, I need to make brownies. What is everything I need to make brownies, and you write it down. And sometimes you may not get it right the first time. You may have to keep adding things in there. So just because you wrote the plan out, it's all neat. You have your dates, you may color coordinate it. Sometimes I do things like that. Blue is this, red is this, green is this. But it's okay to go back and insert things in there. And so you may have forgot when you're applying to school, like, oh my goodness, I need to write an essay. So I've skipped from researching schools to applying to schools. I've asked for recommendation letters. I filled out the application, but you didn't have time in there to write your essay, to have it proofread, to go back, give yourself time to sit on it and read it again. So it's okay. Just rewrite the plan. Just pencil it in there, put a date by it, and be okay with that. Everything doesn't have to be set in stone. Sometimes when we set things, or we talk about goal setting or strategic planning or just our lives in general, most of us are all high achievers, which is why we're on workshops and attending webinars. We feel like once we set something, that has to be it, and we have to accomplish it. No, be flexible with yourself. Be just as kind to yourself as you are with other people. If your team member came to you and said, oh my goodness, I forgot about this, you'll say, okay, well, let's figure out how to insert it in there. Do the same thing with yourself. So if other things come up along the way, which they will, because if it's something that you've never done before, then you don't know what's going to come up. It's kind of like painting a house. It's like, okay, I need liners for this paint tray. Oh, I need a corner. I need a corner brush because I didn't realize that my regular brush can't get in there. So be kind with yourself and be flexible.
Great, thank you. So we have one more question. So all of us on this webinar, are busy women in various capacities, juggling work, professional goals, family, childcare, volunteering, other commitments. Do you have any advice about how to balance setting and achieving those goals, and when you feel overwhelmed by all your, various commitments, like how do you balance your professional goals along with your personal goals?
So I definitely fall in that high achiever category, personally and professionally. My relationships with family and friends are very important to me. And what I found was that I was given a lot to work, a lot to my business, a lot to friends and family, and then somewhere in there I would have my self-care. And this pandemic really opened up my eyes. Like, now I'm going to reassess what I'm doing, what I'm not going to do going forward, and having a calendar that's filled in every single night of the week and a weekend. Maybe 1 week may be like that out of a month, maybe because it's a special event or something happening, but you need time to pause for yourself. So I would put everything that I need to do down to, Morgan, take the water out the freezer, because I may forget if it's not writing down. I may put a note on my calendar to pop up, but schedule special time with yourself to do some of those things and allow you to have some flexibility in your schedule. Your schedule shouldn't be so packed where nothing else can go. Be certain in there. I have closets in my house. When I first bought my house years ago, I said, I'm never doing the switching from fall to spring to winter. Like, that just drives me crazy. I want all my clothes out. So I said, I had different closets for different seasons. And one closet was so full. And I was like, my goodness. My one friend said, Morgan, all your closets shouldn't be full to capacity. And I was like, yeah, I think you're right. Like, they really shouldn't be. That's just too much. When I started to clean them out, I had more room to do other things. And it's the same thing with your schedule and your priorities. Always leave time for you. Again, if your goal is to spend more time with your family this year, but to maybe get on a board If you get on the board and then two other people come to you and say, oh my goodness, I have this great opportunity, but you've already committed to one, say no. Say, can I look at this? Someone asked me to be on a board at the beginning of last year, and I said, can I get back to you in January to see if that's something that I want to do? Because right now I'm not sure. I'm not a hard no, but I'm also not a hard yes. So you got no is a complete sentence, and it's okay. So have time in your schedule for flexibility, for those things that may come up. Make sure you're scheduling time for yourself, and don't take on everything. Again, like I said, you don't have to be a superhuman, and don't try to be a superhuman. We weren't made to be superhuman. Those are movies for a reason. It's not real. So you don't have to carry that.
Thank you so much, Morgan. That's great. And that's a great way to close out with that reminder that we can say no and we don't have to be superhuman. Super helpful for all of us to remember. So that's it for questions, unless there's any final questions anyone wants to put in the Q&A or chat. Otherwise, thank you again, Morgan, and I will turn it back over to Corey.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, if anyone wants to toss in a last minute question while we're wrapping up here, go for it. But thank you so much, Morgan. That was incredibly helpful. And I think you made a really great point, particularly there at the end, that the pandemic has caused a lot of us to reassess how we're spending our time and what we're doing. So that's incredibly helpful. Thank you. A friendly reminder to everyone who's joined us here today, thank you all. Please do remember to follow us on social media so you can see what we have coming up next in this series. As I mentioned at the top, we do offer these webinars for free once a month, and then they are all available afterwards on our YouTube channel. Anyone who registered for this session today will be getting a link to a recording of this later today or on Monday, depending on how long it processes. And you'll be able to watch again or share with a colleague or a friend who thinks this might be helpful.
And Corey,
yeah,
I didn't mention if they can complete this survey again, so I can, I love to always improve and hear other topics people would like to hear. So if that link can be put in the chat, and I will be happy about that. Thank you.
Yes, please do help us improve for future sessions and help Morgan with any session she's doing in the future as well. So if we don't have any last minute questions, which I don't think we do. All right, great. Thanks, Melanie. So special thank you again to Morgan for carving out time and putting us on her calendar and making time for this. Thank you to Melanie for moderating our Q&A for us. And thanks to everyone who joined us online here today. Be safe, be well, everyone, and enjoy your long weekend.